Okay, so I've got to take another spin at Blue Ridge Shadows. Uh, I I reviewed this course, and I think my review came off fairly decently, but a little bit long. So I'm going to try to make this shorter. Blue Ridge Shadows is a fairly new course that's out on way out on 66, out by Skyline Drive almost. It's just north of Skyline Drive. Uh, at the front Royal. Yes, Front Royal. Just on the other side of 66 from Front Royal. It is a kind of a the course I would say is a very difficult course that is almost too hard. Almost too difficult, a little bit too psychotic, a little bit. And that's because I think that they have a fair amount of the course that runs alongside that highway. You have a giant towering hotel right there on one of the par fives, which is like a 670 yard par five, a long straightaway par five. And there's a big towering hotel that towers over that side of the course. I like the course. It has a lot of really good holes, but it does help to know the course a little bit before you play it. Otherwise, you're going to be taking some blind shots. You have no idea where to, what left this here, that here, or that here to hit it, and it's kind of sucks to play that course on some of those holes and really not know where the green is when you tee off. It's much better to drive around the course. I would suggest this seriously. Drive around the course once before you play, because you'll get a much better idea of where the greens are, and it's much more fun that way. It is unquestionably a player's course. This is no beginner's course. I would not even bother with this course if you couldn't break 100 fairly comfortably on most courses. It is a solid challenge of golf, and it is also one of the harder courses, if not the hardest course in the DC area. That's a public course that I've ever played, and I'm talking about within hours of DC, and I'm talking about including Wyncote, which is certainly in the top 5 in difficulty. This is a tough course. So many of the shots are blind. So many shots are uphill, downhill, over these big valleys. There's some holes where there's like a Z, and the fairway is narrow enough, and there's waist, left, right, front, center. These big sweeping downhill shots to the green, where the green is bordered by waste on the left, there's water on the right, and a steep runoff, and there's the lake curves around behind the green. You don't want to goof around and think that you can play this course when you can't play, okay? You'll just lose a lot of balls on this course. It is tough, no question about it. But it's also a pretty fun course to play. And even if you do lose some balls or whatever, it's still fun to get out there and take some of these shots and some of these holes. I enjoyed playing the course. I played it once, and I certainly, my first review, I raved about the course. So I'm trying to keep this non-raving and keep it shorter. You will see a lot of very challenging holes, some holes that will just mess with your mind, some holes that are, like, wow, I'm so glad I played this course. That was such a fun hole. And then there are some holes that are average, and that would be tough, and the top holes on other courses, like Hobbit's Glen, for example, that on this course are the easier holes, the more average holes. On this course, you'll take a breath, like, whew, thank goodness at least it had a decent hole. And the other thing about this course is a lot of the greens are elevated greens, and with very steep runoffs on the sides, and the rough is fairly thick, so you're playing shots that could easily end up in the rough. A lot of air, big air on these shots. They easily end up in the rough. You're going to be playing a fair amount of chip shots up to the green, and the chip shots alone are challenged. You don't have to hit, even if the holes were relatively flat, just the chips to these elevated greens are a challenge alone, no question. A fair number of holes with water alongside the hole, waist, fairly close to the hole. It is a great course, in my opinion. It just may be a little bit too good in some sense in terms of the challenge of the holes. And then there are a few holes which are at best okay. But there are a lot of really good holes on this course. I loved it. I will try not to repeat myself about that. And I will say simply, if you have, an hour or so to drive out to Front Royal, you should play this course. If you like playing challenging courses, you definitely should play this course. It certainly has a nice clubhouse, good food, a good balcony. You can sit there and watch other people struggle around the course. It has got a lot of verticality, not too much, but certainly a lot. And it is just a blast. I think it was one of the best deals, one of the best entertainment rounds of golf, one of the most challenging rounds of golf, and it is not that far out of town. It is certainly close enough where you can say, oh, I can take the drive out there. It's not that bad. And, it's not like, some parts of DC, it might be 2 hours to get to Front Royal. It's still worth it. 2 hours is not that far out of town to play a golf round. Where you're going to spend 4 or 5 hours playing golf. And for this course, it absolutely was worth it. I can only give positives for this course. Some of the holes are not all that great, but even then, they're still good holes. A lot of the holes are really good holes. And it is a great challenge and a great round. And certainly it is fun and inspirational, and it will frustrate you in some ways because some of the holes are almost a little bit too hard, but still fun to play. That is Blue Ridge Shadows in Front Royal, just north of Front Royal on the other side of 66, Virginia.